I one-shotted every boss in Dark Souls 1. Hello everybody, Stream Your Mind here. Hope you've all had a great couple of weeks. I certainly did because we finally reached 10,000 subscribers. So I just wanted to thank you all for the support you've showed me these past few months with a fun little challenge. Without wasting any time, let's get into this. We start off to some humble beginning, choosing the Pyromancer as our class, Master Key as our gift, and Sexy Ryan Reynolds as our character. Obviously, the challenge begins once we arrive in Firelink, so while I fight my way through the Undead Asylum, I'll explain to you what I'm going to try and achieve during this run. My goal is to obviously one-shot every boss in the base game. I can use whatever glitch and skip at my disposal to obtain ultimate power. I will not be using blatant cheese tactics like making the centipede demon fall off the map. I can only kill a boss using one press of a button, and any other enemy or NPC can be killed normally, as otherwise this challenge would have taken me a couple of weeks just to complete it. Okay, now that the Asylum Demon is dead, we take the best mean for transportation in the land of Lordran, and we arrive in Firelink Shrine. There are quite a few things that we have to do before we can fight our first boss, and one of those things is getting souls. Lots of souls. So I picked up all the ones available in Firelink Shrine, making sure I picked up the rest of the items as well, like the Homeward Boners and the Fire Bombs, before making my way down in Detroit, where I picked up some juicy souls, a couple of large tits for good measure to pair up with my gargantuan stick. I then had to climb my way up the other side of Blighttown.
Like you're ganking, what is this, Dark Souls 2?
And got the power within Pyromancy before getting my bony undead ass sent back to the bonfire. I returned to the Valley of Drakes, and unfortunately I was streaming this run while there was a storm outside, so I had a few issues with the footage. I made sure to pick up the soul held by the Undead Dragon here. I lit the bonfire in Darkroot Basin, but forgot to sit at the bonfire, died to the Black Knight, and got sent back all the way into Blighttown again. God, I love this game. Hopefully that will never happen again, right? Anyways, after the longest run back, I made sure to sit at the bonfire, killed the Black Knight. Hey look, it's the Black Knight Halberd. Picked up the best shield in the game, and I also killed the Crystal Lizard here to see if he could drop me a Titanite chunk, but he obviously didn't. He did drop me 2 large tits though, so I still had my happy ending. I made sure to pick up the longbow, which will come in handy in just a bit, lit the bonfire in Undead Berg, and as you can probably tell, I used the souls I picked up to level up strength and wield a great club, and unlock the shortcut to Firelink. Now that I had a weapon, I needed to level it up as much as possible, which means I need to pick up a large ember, which is placed in the depths, which is locked behind the Capra Demon boss fight. So how am I going to pick up an item blocked by an enemy I can't one-shot? Simple. I headed to Undead Berg, rolled down through the barrels here, killed all the enemies, picked up the Titanite chunk, climbed the ladder to the top, and as soon as I was all the way up, I turned my character 180 degrees. As you can see, I am now standing on the ladder. I then rolled to the left side, ran for a bit until I fell through the floor like I was tripping on LSD, made sure I had my equip load between 25 and 29%, and meme rolled my way all the way down to the depths. I then jumped over here, jumped again here, and as you can see from the subtitles, Laurentius is speaking to us right now. Don't worry buddy, I'll come save you. Anyways, I go down this path, above the rats, turned here and dropped inside the catacombs. Now I could free our good friend Laurentius as well as getting the large ember. Then I felt what every 3-year-old feels when a pitbull is around. I went down Newo Ruins, killed Ingvard with firebombs and some arrows, and drained all the water in Newo. Picked up the best wedding ring a woman could desire, but unfortunately I was followed by a fucking Darth Wraith and fell to an early death. Once I got back, I picked up an actual Titanite chunk and the giant ember. Now that I had all the embers I needed, it was a matter of getting the rocks to upgrade the club, which means we'll have to do another skip. Everybody knows about Sense Skip at this point, but I'll go through it briefly anyways. If you stand next to the 3rd pillar from the bottom of the stairs before the cathedral and repulse an enemy, you will enter what we call Death Cam. This makes the player enter a state where the game thinks you're dead, but you actually aren't, and it allows for interesting things to happen. After navigating your way using these god-awful tank controls, if you're able to make it work, you will be able to reach the inside of Sense Fortress as the gate isn't loaded in when you are in this state. As soon as you see the Sense Fortress text, quit out, and when you log back in, you will be inside the structure. Here I got my hands on the 2 large Titanite shards in this chest, as well as the ones placed on the rooftop. And thanks to some duping shenanigans, I bought all the large Titanites I needed from the crestfallen merchant. I then killed the giant that throws his balls in your face for a Titanite chunk, and the same fate awaited his cousin that opens the gates. I also made sure to get the key for the shortcut to make my life easier when I'll eventually get back to this place, and I upgraded my club to plus 12. At this point, I decided that it was probably best to kill Havel for his ring. I tasted what revenge tastes like, and it's sweet, I can tell you that. Killed the Black Knight for another Titanite chunk, and it was time to finally face our first boss, the Tar's Demon. I cleared the 2 archers on top of the tower, and I then took the plunge at the demon's ugly ass face, officially one-shotting our first boss of the run. 25 more to go. I now had enough chunks to upgrade to plus 13, but it wasn't enough. Killed the other Black Knight in Undead Berg, and by duping some more souls I upgraded my Pyromancy Flame to plus 15. I then traveled back to Newo Ruins, where I had a lucky drop from one of the raves. And I picked up the last chunk that I needed to upgrade my Great Club to plus 14 inside this chest. Now I was ready to see if I could one-shot the Gargoyles. I used only Power Within as I thought the red tier stone ring would kind of overkill, and turns out I was right, I didn't really need it. And after putting out of his misery the second Gargoyle, I ranked the first spell of Awakening, bought some useful items from Oswald, and I learned how to T-pose to assert dominance onto my enemies. And it was time to pay a visit to Mommy Spider Milker's Deluxe Edition. I definitely needed to be in hyper mode for Quillag. I knew what to do thanks to previous failed runs I did for this challenge. So I entered the boss arena, waited for RTSR to activate. Fortunately, she placed herself in the right position quickly enough to allow me to jump off this leverage near the entrance of the arena and do a plunge attack, hitting the sexy part of her body as well as the human half, dealing well over 3000 damage. This felt really good, not going to lie. I rang the second bell and a cutscene started to play. Wait a minute. I killed you. How are you? Guess time is really convoluted in this universe. And now the gates for Sen's Fortress were finally opened. But before continuing my journey to pure destruction, I spoke to Quilana and ascended my Pyroflame to plus 5. I returned to the Darkroot Basin to kill the Hydra, and I went on to save Ulasil. For the love of God, don't use Great Chaos Fireballs, because you'll end up killing Dusk as well, making it then impossible to get the Crown of Dusk, deeming the run flat out dead. And that definitely did not happen to me.
Could have killed it. I'm gonna get into the lava and die. Oh, she died. Fuck. No fucking way she did. No way, I can't get the crown anymore. What? No fucking shot.
By the way, I did forget to mention that I joined the Fair Ladies Covenant for the Great Chaos Fireball, so now you know. I saved Dusk and also got her drip. Okay, now that we're all set up, let's see what we can do against the Iron Golem. After getting caught by his janky ass grab attack, I returned for my second try and... shit, I forgot to apply Power Within. You know what they say though? Third time is always the charm. And with only the need of 2 fire pillars to hit, we were now in for the real deal. In Anor Londo, I unlocked the elevator, parried the infamous archer, lit the bonfire, and guess what? I forgot to actually sit down at the bonfire again. And guess what happened after? I died!
He's twitching around. Fuck.
So after painfully making my way back to the bonfire, I made sure to put my ass on the ground and actually rest at it this time. Once this lovely sequences of events came to a conclusion, it was time to take off the training wheels and fight the dynamic duo. With Power Within activated, RTSR, and the rest of the buffs I feel too lazy to list, I was able to burn Orstein to a crisp with a single Great Chaos Fireball. The proud Dragon Slayer's body fell to the ground, and Small respectfully used it as a golden pine resin and buffed himself up. Turns out Small was a bit more problematic than Orstein, as the Fire Tempest Pyromancy has a bit of an RNG element to it. as bosses can easily avoid the pillars and penetrate every hole in your body by the time you'll be finished casting it. Little did I know this would be the first sign of how things were about to go terribly wrong during this run. Obviously, I did get hit by absolutely nothing at some point, which is always fun. And anyways, after a couple of tries, I was able to kill Orstein, and I then spin the wheel against Mo, and when he finally went down, I was so happy I actually forgot to heal and died. But I still won, so... Now I could finally find the amazing chest ahead. Come on guys, I'm actually talking about the Lord Vessel, try to keep up, okay? Once I placed my new giant cereal bowl, I decided to go back and check off more bosses from my list. Starting with Moonlight, I died. That's embarrassing. Second try, I died again. Okay, all of you, forget what you just saw, okay? See? First try. I then faced off the cutest puppy in the world and burned them to ashes. And since I wanted to start off the DLC, I went to the Duke's archives and actually was able to perform the Duke skip successfully. Using the bow, aim to a specific spot on the lever of the elevator, you activate it to go down, and as soon as you gain back control after the animation, you roll to your right, then forward, and then backwards, and then you need to time your roll off the elevator so that you can skip the first death encounter with the naked promiscuous dragon. It's a pretty difficult trick, but the bow makes it way more consistent. Unfortunately though, I forgot to sit at the bonfire, because in my head, if I light it, I should return to it when I die, right? Because otherwise, what is the goddamn point of lighting the bonfire in the first place? Thank God this was changed in the later games. Anyways, I died to Sith because I was not going to redo that skip again, after which it was my turn to roast him harder than that new KSI song. Oh, by editing the video, I just realized that I forgot to mention that I spoke to Griggs for the Slumbering Dragon ring, so just assume I did that somewhere before Iron Golem. Sorry for that. Moving on, I cancelled Capra Demon with a Chaos Fireball to the face, and a similar fate awaited the Gaping Dragon. Only it was pillars and not balls. Look at that, I guess we do have the whole package. Then I went to the catacombs. To the catacombs. Managed to somehow first try the hardest boss in the game, saved Zelda from the evils found in the Tomb of Giants, sent Leroy Jenkins back to WoW, but then I realized I forgot to reverse the Occult Club to a Divine Club, so once I solved that issue, I used the club to permakill the annoying skeletons in Nero's arena, used the two-handed glitch to phase through the sword dance, and one-shotted the Lord of Death. With the worst boss of the run now on the horizon, I couldn't delay the inevitable no more, so I got the broken pendant from the Duke's archives, gave Gwendolyn a kiss, and was kidnapped to Epstein Island. I tried using the Great Chaos Fireball against Sanctuary Guardian, but for some reason the lingering lava pools weren't hitting the boss, so I decided to try using Fire Tempest, and it actually worked perfectly the first try. And this is where the shit started to show up. Roll the clips. This went on for a really long time. So I went back to Sen's Fortress and freed Big Hat Logan. I wonder why they call him Big Hat Logan. I bought every spell he sold back in Firelink Shrine, and unfortunately I guess the poor guy spent all the cash I gave him to develop an addiction to crystal meth. So I put him out of his misery by roasting his ass with a fireball, and I got the Tin Crystallization Catalyst, which is one of the best catalysts in the game, as it increases the power of sorceries by 50% while also decreasing the amount of casts at your disposal. I then bought Fall Control from Griggs, leveled up stamina all the way to 46, and thanks to the Fall Control spell we bought earlier and the power of meme rolling, I was able to survive this fall, skipping the Artorias fight and allowing myself to reach the Chasm of the Abyss. Picked up the most broken spell in Soul history, well at least before Elden Ring came out, and decided to go off and finish some of the bosses I've missed. So I flew back to the Undead Asylum, and the fight against the Stray Demon was over before I even realized. I then duped some humanities to further my allegiance to the Daughter of Chaos Covenant, and got the Chaos Fire Tempest, which is a slightly inferior version of the Fire Tempest we bought earlier from Quilana. But nonetheless, I figured I would try it out on Artorias anyways, as it leaves lava pools on the ground similar to the Great Chaos Fireball that could maybe deal the extra damage I needed to push myself over the edge. And what do you know? I was right. It actually worked.
Oh? Yes! First try!
I do have a lot to say about Calami, believe that, but first I returned to the Demon Ruins and successfully one-shotted the Cheeseless Discharge, and after that, it was the Fire Sage Demon's turn to meet his maker. I then walked like an edgelord, before clutching my beads and squishing the centipede demon like a tiny bug. For the best boss in the game, I used the firebomb trick to get rid of the 2 orbs and then clap the boss because pyromancy is for boys and bonk is for men. And this is officially when the run turned from fun to pure torture really fast, because 3 of the 4 remaining bosses heavily relied on RNG, especially Manus. But since there really isn't much skill involved with Manus as it is 100% luck, I preferred focusing on Calami and the 4 kings. So let's begin with the latter, which are the bane of the existence of anybody who tries this challenge. But I needed a particular spell for this fight, so I touched a painting in Orlando and I was teleported to the painted world of Ariens. Moved a statue that for some reason opened up a door, died once again to the fairest enemy in the game, popped a giant pimple and picked up Fire Surge, before sending an innocent soul to an early grave. And then I threw myself headfirst into the incoming hell that was facing straight at me, staring at me menacingly. Now, about these 4 royal turds, this wasn't a complicated fight in theory. I would just need to die where the second king spawns, so that I could then reach the location marked by my souls. Wait for the second king to spawn while using the first king to reach RTSR range, and then fire spray the second king as soon as he came into the fight, and continue to hit him while his ghost disappears, as doing so continues to damage him, and then proceed to do the same thing on the first king, which is now the second king, but he spawned first, and yeah, the amount of RNG bullshit involved in this made this shit a nightmare. If I for some reason would get grabbed, the animation was so long that the second king would spawn before I could reach RTSR, making it then impossible to use the strategy because the kings would just now flow away from each other, and as you can imagine, I needed them to be very close. As close as possible. The amount of times I was staggered out of the fire surge attack and interrupted were countless. I would need to find the perfect sweet spot of dealing damage while also taking less damage as possible. It took me multiple streams to beat these guys. I had to dupe souls again and increase my vigor so that I could have more time to kill them before either an explosion or power within would send my ass back to the bonfire. I lost count of how many times I died trying to achieve this. Didn't really help that the run back was also pretty fucking long. I was going to give up, but fortunately on the second stream I noticed I was getting better and more consistent. I had a couple of times where I got damn close, like really close.
No! No!
So I continued to try, die, run back and try again, until this finally happened.
Yes! Yes!
Now that I was finally out of one shithole, it was time to dive into the next one. And honestly, I had no idea what I was doing with Calami. Not many videos were really helpful as they all seem to have the same strategy, which relies heavily more on Calami's moves than yours. Positioning and timing can only go a long way, as it seemed to me that I was going to need to inflict extra instability damage if I wanted this to work. I tried this for hours and hours and hours, but I couldn't get anywhere. But then, I remembered about an old Yamfa video, where he actually lures the dragon near the waterfall as that makes Calami do only his fire attacks, and I was definitely more consistent in actually dealing damage, but my fire Tempest was just not doing enough damage. I didn't understand what was going on. I had every buff placed correctly, I just wasn't dealing enough. I also remembered what happened with Artorias earlier. It seemed possible, I just had to hope in the right RNG, and so I tried and tried again. Death after death, and I was getting exhausted.
Come on! Yeah! No! No! What? No! No way!
And this is where it broke me.
Please! Oh. No! No!
I said, fuck it, this is good enough for me. Sent my greetings to Manus, cause fuck me to death if I'm delving into that galaxy levels of shit, and I made my way to the final and last boss. I wanted to finish off Gwyn with the Great Club, but even with the Hornet Ring equipped, the damage wasn't even close. So I then tried to use Fire Tempest, but realized halfway through that I wasn't wearing the right gear for it. And just because I wanted to get this shit over with, I equipped the Dark Bead, parried the old man, and with a single click, the run was over. And I killed every boss in the base game using one press of a button. Even if I didn't get the victory prompt against Calami, in my mind I one-shotted him as well, as a way to cope with the months of therapy I will have to endure because of that fight. Thank God I decided not to do Manus. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, leave a like and let me know what you think down in the comments. And again, thank you for the 10,000 subscribers. This is unreal, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you.